Check 1 2 1 2. This one hater on Twitter said, "This little fella should be banned from Barstool offices. How can you be a part of a sports company and throw like that?" Well, guess what, Corky 122? Suck my.
Hey everybody, welcome on back to Rubbin is Racing Podcast, brought to you by NASCAR. This weekend, we got the longest race that NASCAR holds. It's going to be the Coca-Cola 600, live from Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's going down on Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. It's going to go on at 5:30 Eastern Time, and you can catch it on Fox. Just a reminder, since it's Memorial Day, the event doubles as a 600 miles of remembrance. I love NASCAR because of this shit. I love being in that truck, Spider, with the flag behind us. That was awesome.
That was one of the most patriotic things we did, but at the same time, the Coke 600 is right up there as well.
Yeah. So
we went in 2019. I was with Quiggs and Zero Blog 30. It was one of the coolest things. I think NASCAR does a great job with their showing appreciation for people that deserve it the most, and Coke 600 is a great pinnacle event like that.
So when you tune into Fox at 5:30 on Sunday, keep your eye out for the little nuances of the 600 miles of remembrance. Each car is going to carry the name of a member of the U.S. military who died in service to their country across the windshield, where it would normally say the name of the driver. So it'll still say like Hamlin on the side, but it'll be the name of a fallen hero on the actual windshield. And a lot of times those people whose family member had passed away and is on the windshield is in the crowd. So if like Denny wins and it's like Sergeant so-and-so, like perhaps his wife and his kid it's just very, 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 very special. On top of that, this race is long. This is a long one, right? Say that to my wife every now and again. So it'll have 4 stages, not 3, it'll have 4 stages. And after stage 2, the full field will be brought down to pit road and they'll shut their engines off for a moment of remembrance. That's very fucking cool. When you're at a NASCAR race and you hear that constant until the end of the race, when the place gets a lot more silent than it was for now 5 hours for this thing. So you're going to notice a marked difference when those engines all turn off at the same time for a moment of silence. So again, Coca-Cola 600 from Charlotte Motor Speedway, Sunday 5:30 on Fox. What's up, boys? How's everything?
What's good? What's good? I'm so pumped for this weekend, Large.
Yeah, we're not going. Quiggs is going. And for people who don't know, Quiggs doesn't do a tremendous amount of traveling with the company. He's told us that. Liam has never been on a boat, and Quiggs hasn't done a lot of traveling. But he goes every year to this thing. Talk to us about the event.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Me and my friends started going 5-6 years ago. But we basically found out you can bring a cooler into NASCAR, which I'm sure anybody who's ever been to a race knows, but people that don't go probably don't know, and that was a selling point. So we weren't even big into NASCAR at the time, but we just did it, and now it's become our Memorial Day tradition. It's just we go every year. It's awesome. It's a long race though. It's so long.
It's super long. No, but it's.
What are you touching him for?
I didn't mean to. I actually didn't mean to do that. I think Large thought I was calling.
I recoiled a little bit. Sometimes, and people are watching this on YouTube. God bless you. Sometimes he grabs my love handle in the middle of the show.
I'm trying to get comfortable.
Remind me, I got to start tightening it up. Let's talk about next week because we'll get into the Coke 600 in a second. And the reason we'll talk about last week, not briefly, but it wasn't that great of a race, right? I mean, I think most people agree after the All-Star weekend that they loved the experience. Like, we loved going to L.A. I loved going to the Clash. I thought it was cool. The race stunk, right? I mean, the race stunk, but it was a cool experience to go to. You agree, Liam? Yeah.
Yeah, no. That was the first NASCAR race I ever went to, and they were going like 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if this is going to be that cool or not.
And you're right. Like, going quicker in the Uber to the race than what the cars do on the racetrack is kind of deceptive. So that wasn't the case, obviously, in North Wilkesboro, but the place was relatively packed. I think it only seats maybe like 30,000. I don't know if they sold out, but everybody there was.
They did, yeah.
I think they sold out like practice and qualifying.
Did they?
Yeah.
It looked that way. Somebody had said that they didn't sell out. That's the only reason that I brought it up. But I got to be honest with you, I'm siding with you. I think they sold out because
it visually looked like they sold out. Like that was gonna I thought the coolest part was it kind of felt like old NASCAR, just like everybody caring about practice, qualifying, trucks. Like,
the grandstands look packed.
Yeah.
And they look packed with people who like appreciate vintage NASCAR
Oh, yeah.
like shit.
I think the
You know?
the racing was left a lot to be desired, but the whole weekend was incredible. Like we had DW back in the booth, like everything, the whole feel about the weekend. Quiggs is spot on. It was very much like old NASCAR, or what I would imagine that felt like, and that was very cool.
Drivers showed up as early as Tuesday to try to get some time on the track. I know Suarez was there probably the longest, did a couple late model races and whatnot. But what I thought was very cool and differentiated for me is that it was popular in the 80s and 90s, but that was the first time I saw a pit crew challenge. They did the pit crew challenge on Friday night, and Ty Gibbs' pit crew won. Just over 13 seconds. 4-tire pit stop in just over 13 seconds. So on top of giving him... So I'm going to go on. It also, on top of winning the pit crew challenge, his pit crew then gets $100,000. I didn't know that.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, they cut him a check for $100,000 right there.
I love it. I mean, the drivers get $1 million for winning the race. It's good that the pit guys get an opportunity for their bag as well.
And it's a level playing field.
Yeah.
Like in the races, there's cars that aren't ever going to have a chance to win. Pit stops, I think, are pretty. It's like if you're going to quick enough, everybody's kind of doing the same thing.
So you win the contest, you get $100,000. Then he gets the pole.
Yeah.
For the All-Star Open, which
Yeah.
was the sort of the qualifying race that they had done. So since he was not an All-Star and he won the pit crew challenge, he got the pole for the Open. I think the same thing had happened with Josh Berry, who I think came in maybe fourth. So he got the second spot, P2, or the second starting spot for the All-Star Challenge. Suarez's 99 Trackhouse team came in second. So, but making the best of the All-Stars, he was 13.29 seconds for a 4-tire pit stop. So that and then Chris Buescher for RFK. So that gave Suarez and Buescher the pole for Saturday night's 60-lap All-Star heat races, which then set the starting grid for the All-Star race that night. So a little bit convoluted and stuff, but cool as shit. The truck race was pretty explosive. There was a lot of stuff going on this weekend. So then the Open had happened. So you have all these people who are vying for those, I guess, 3 spots in the All-Star race. It was the 2 spots from the winner in P2 of the Open plus the fan vote. Right. And then the winner in P2 became Josh Berry and Ty Gibbs, and then Noah Gragson got voted in.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 guys I wanted to see in the race, and all 3 of them got in, so I was very happy with that.
Yeah, except Ty Gibbs might have won if it wasn't for the smoke that he has now with McDowell.
Yeah.
A guy who I think Mamba had said was one of the scariest people that he knows, the guy that he wanted on his team if he got into a bar fight. So I don't think that Ty Gibbs...
Is that what he said?
Yeah. He chose McDowell because then he'd mentioned how McDowell and Suarez got into that fight. And I didn't want to mention, I thought Suarez won that fight. I thought he actually picked McDowell up, but maybe I'll look at it again.
It seemed like Twitter kept making jokes that Ty and McDowell were 2 of the biggest God guys on the whole circuit, and and they were having beef.
Yeah. But even McDowell in the interview afterwards, I guess Gibbs put him into the wall a little bit early. Then McDowell was maybe a lap down, and then he blocked Gibbs and then squeaked Josh Berry for the win.
His car was destroyed. He told his team allegedly, fix it so I can go take care of business.
Yeah.
And then he got back on the track and just got in Ty's way. I understand what he's saying at the end of the race, that he doesn't have a budget for these type of things, but I'm kind of like, McDowell, come on. If you're going to say that, go out there and finish the job. I don't know. I would have loved to see him. As much as I just said I wanted Ty in the race, I think it would have been good for theatrics and drama if McDowell, made good on his threats.
I had Ty Gibbs to win that. That was one of my bets, and I don't know. They were talking about it on the broadcast. So McDowell tried to get Ty Gibbs earlier, and he failed to do anything. And they were basically Clint and whoever was in the booth was basically saying a little bit of a NASCAR unwritten rule is if you can't get it done the first time, you don't get to just keep trying to wreck them. If you have your shot and you miss it, you can't do it. But yeah, the second time he got him, and he didn't even really. I don't think McDowell did everything he wanted to do, but he did enough to knock him back to P2, which sucked. And then he had no desire to make the pass.
At that point, they were just
second
riding.
place and first place was the same in that race for the most part.
Yeah, and then I don't think the graphic of McDowell punching Ty Gibbs would have played as well as the Gragson Chastain because Ty is so fucking young looking.
And for an open qualifying race,
Yeah.
it's not even a real race. It would have been a little bit of overreaction.
So then Berry, Gibbs, and Gragson get to go to the show. They get to go to the All-Star race on Sunday night, and it didn't matter, right? Because Kyle Larson was on a different level for most of the race. I don't know why. I think DW, like you said, he kept saying, "Where's the magic wand with this car?" It's almost like he was saying, "How exactly are these guys cheating to get so goddamn fast?" I mean, they sent Larson to the back of the line for being too fast exiting the pits earlier in the race, and he just climbed. He climbed right back up to P1. He led for 145 laps, which I had seen as a stat was the most of any single All-Star race. Led 145 laps, which was crazy. So he got his $1 million, got a $1 million check. He got his third All-Star win. That's 3 out of the last 5, all 3 on different tracks. And this was after he won the truck race on Saturday. So swept the weekend.
My favorite part was pre-race. Michael Waltrip was going down the grid like as he does, interviewing people, and he sees Caitlin Larson. He's like, "Hey, if Kyle wins tonight, will you shotgun a beer?"
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch the race. He wins the race, and then she shotgunned the beer. But it was just incredible to see that come full circle. Like Larson, $1 million. I feel like, I don't know.
Him getting sent to the back was kind of what won him the race. Well, I think he wins the race under any circumstances that night. He's just so much better. But he was able to, when that caution came out with like 15 laps, he got new tires and didn't lose any track position because he's in the back. And then that was the best part of the race, was seeing him go from the back to the front in 30 laps.
To me, it was fascinating just to see how many cars he put down. He lapped.
Yeah.
At one point in the race, I want to say there was like 12 cars on the lead lap, which was
he was
crazy.
Killing everyone.
But like the only thing that I noticed that was different, other than the fact that he had a rocket engine in his car, was that he was the guy who went lowest in turn 4 onto that concrete track. At some point, he had 4 tires on that concrete track, grabbing a little bit more traction on it. I don't know how difficult it is to get down to that off of turn 4 or whatever, but he seemed to be the guy that had a different line than everybody else. I don't know why. It wasn't a secret. Everybody was watching him do it, including all these other pit guys. But it was dominant. Caitlin Larson, you can bonk me for her right now. I'm a big fan. She came out in that little denim jumper type thing.
She's also got like so much personality. I feel like, I don't know, the driver should take after Caitlin Larson a little bit.
Yeah, let me cook on this jumper thing. She's got a nice little body. No. So, and then she wasn't able to pop the can, pop that can, Caitlin. She wasn't able to pop the can open to do a proper shotgun. So she was like, fuck it. And she just cracked it and chugged it. And I told you guys, I started watching Dirt. Like there's a 4 or 5 part series on FS1 about dirt racing. And the more I learn about Larson, the more I see just how fucking cocky he is. Yeah. Like he's cocky as shit. And we got to see a lot of it because afterwards, this is a quote, that was an old school ass whooping, is what he said to the field of drivers that he just left behind and won $1 million. And by the way, almost lapped them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was probably the most dominant performance at a racetrack that we've seen this year.
William Byron, the second favorite to win the race, was down at least a lap for what felt like the whole second stage.
Yeah.
And he fucking stunk it up in the truck races too. Like when you do your over under, William Byron underperformed the whole weekend. He had a terrible All-Star weekend. So let's talk about everybody else, right? There was more parity this week. We were talking about how we were going Fords, Toyotas, Chevys have always kind of been consistent this year, but we were talking about how Ford's had a little bit of resurgence in the last week or so. In the top 10, there was a tremendous amount of parity. We had 4 Chevys, 3 Toyotas, and 3 Fords. Kind of nice to see that, right? Like everything's starting to come together. But 2311 finishing P2 and P3 is an extraordinary day. It's an extraordinary day for them. So I'm going to ask you two guys right now. Liam, if you want to chime in, more than welcome. Who has more momentum now, Trackhouse or 2311?
2311.
Do they? Yeah. Is Ross Chastain the best driver out of the 4 guys that we're talking about in 2311 in Trackhouse Racing?
Oh,
I don't think so.
I think it's him or Tyler Reddick.
Is it
opinion.
not Bubba Wallace?
Bubba Wallace, I think
he doesn't have a win. Tyler does.
To answer your first question, I think 2311 has more momentum because I'm of the opinion Tyler Reddick is the better driver, and Bubba Wallace kind of needed more from him. Well, we just got more from him with the second place finish, and I think they're turning it on at the right time. So I'm more optimistic there. But it's close. But out of the 4, I think it's...
But you're saying 2311. You're saying 2311.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks ago, I asked you the same question. You're both saying Trackhouse,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So that's your point. This worm has turned in the past 2 weeks.
That's.
correct?
I think they're kind of trying to like neuter Chastain, and like I think that's what I liked about Trackhouse was like the edge, and now it's a little bit like, all right, Chastain was going over the line too much. We want to reel him in and focus on just driving. But I feel like part of his driving is being like the bad boy, and if you don't want him to be the bad boy, there's a little bit of an edge lost there.
Yeah. I got to tell you, coming in to do this podcast today, I was a little bit upset that there were no punches thrown.
Yeah.
You know, like you get a little bit spoiled by it. All right, so 2311, great day, right, Bubba? And and not a great day when you're so far in the rear view of P1, right? It's not that great, but it's a very good day for that team. Chase Briscoe had a great fucking day. And I'm sure, we love Chase Briscoe at this thing. So P4, best of the Fords, best of Stuart Haas, best career finish in the All-Star race. Congratulations, Chase Briscoe. I only want good things to happen to that guy because he's a fucking great person. I think he's a great driver. Ty Gibbs, P9, and the top Joe Gibbs Racing driver. Ty Gibbs continues to impress, right? I mean, what he had done in the Open coming into this, and even with the little smoke and stuff, it was very, very fun. If you're a Ty Gibbs fan, it was kind of fun to watch him, Joey was sent back because he had a tire come off in the pits, so he was sent back. But he actually had a pretty good day. He finished P10. Like, he clawed his way up as much as one person probably could have, except if that person is Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think that Joey Logano had a bad week with a P10 finish, even though that I had him as one of my guys to win this week. Ross Chastain came 11th. Denny, P13. Harvick, one more time for the 29. And Quiggs is like, why are the odds so short on that? And I was like, because old guys are so fucking... So I bet him, and I lost miserably. That's his last All-Star race, P18. And like I said, Byron was another one of those guys that I thought was disappointing. I don't think there's anybody else to mention from that race.
Not
correct?
Really. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody... Even the people you mentioned, like, some of them weren't noteworthy just because it was Kyle Larson the whole day.
Yeah.
Which kind of... That goes into... A lot of people don't, like... I've seen people complain about stages being added. Like, this shows you what happens when there's no stages.
Right.
Like, they don't get stacked up again. Like, you can have a guy that just runs away with the race.
Dominates. Yeah. What do you guys think about the actual track? Is it something that you think they should go back to for the All-Star race every year? I mean, there's a good head about it. Should they go back and make some changes, repave? Like, what's the deal?
I liked it, but my concern is will it lose its cool if we just run it every All-Star race? Part of me thinks that was like the way to do it. You go to North Wilkesboro, you run the throwback scheme, and you kind of have that one weekend a year where it's historic or like, throwback kind of.
If they put it on the schedule, would you be against that? Like, not even for the All-Star race, if they started to, because like Fontana and whatnot, if they need to start replacing tracks or adding tracks, would you want to see Wilkesboro on the schedule? I didn't enjoy watching the race. Like, the race was more of a parade.
It was
right?
a novelty
The
thing.
lead car. Yeah, it was more like a funeral procession, except all the dead bodies were in the back. Like the one fast car was out front. So it wasn't, I'm not in a rush. I'm in a rush to go visit the place, not to watch another race there. So I don't give a fuck if they go back.
I think they should go back, but I don't think they should. Only if there's like you said, like they need a track to fill in another date.
Right.
I don't think they should remove a date.
I don't know. I like it. I think it's a really cool track. I think also a lot of people, like, nobody knew anything going into the weekend. A lot of people will, for future races, just study what Kyle Larson did and then copy that game plan. But I know it wouldn't happen. It's a totally different thing. But like, I'd take that over racing in the Coliseum.
Oh yeah.
If you want to do that at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
I like it for All-Star. Like, maybe you do it as like every 5-10 years, kind of like, or even it would be, which money-wise wouldn't work, but just like using the All-Star race to go to just like revive tracks or like old tracks that were never raced would be a cool concept. But that's, I don't know, there's not necessarily enough in the cost to redo that for a single race. It's just not worth it.
What about the poor bastard who owned like the gas station outside of North Wilkesboro, and he was tunning it 26 years ago with all the NASCAR people who were coming in, whatever, and then all of a sudden his business just went to shit, but he kept the gas station going. Then all of a sudden he tunned it again this weekend, and it's like you're saying, we'll be back in 5 years.
Oh.
Like, you think about the local industry and stuff that NASCAR provides, through like some of these races and having some continuity to it. So I shouldn't say don't go back there. When you think about these mom and pops who have like pie shops.
I think 100% go back there.
Okay.
Because look at the crowd. I mean, that to me speaks for itself. I think if you do it in a way where it doesn't lose its novelty, if you let it keep its cool, and I think it will be great.
Yeah. And they say traffic got out of there in an hour and 15 minutes.
But I also think that if they're going to go back there, like all those things will alleviate itself. They kind of, in my opinion, they worked efficiently to make this event happen, which was awesome. It was great. It was unbelievable seeing how appreciative the drivers were, the fans, and especially the community. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, and I'm thinking maybe back with the paving, but I know people are against that too, like with the repave. So it remains to be seen, whatever NASCAR wants to do. We're going to take a little bit of a different direction because we're about to go 3 wide, but we're not going with the driver. We're going with the guy who's very friendly with one of the drivers, one of Kevin Harvick's best friends, country star, big NASCAR fan, huge golf fan, and also a big stoolie, guy who's been on a couple of franchises here within Barstool. So it's Jake Owen. So we're about to go 3 wide with Jake Owen. All right, so as promised, it's me and Spider and a guy who I think Teen Beat Magazine had voted hottest country star in the world. I don't see it, to be quite honest with you. But he is sitting in right now with the 2 hottest NASCAR podcasters in the world, which I do see. It's Jake Owen. What's up, Jake? How you been?
What's up?
Long time.
What magazine was that?
I said Tiger Beat, maybe Teen Beat. I made the whole thing up. I think it wasn't like Tiger Beat something for a while. Am I just getting so fucking old?
You're aging yourself,
Was
Large.
it? Yeah, it was like Lonnie Anderson was on the cover last time I had bought it. Jake, country music, NASCAR, golf. I mean, those 3 things kind of go together. Spider tends to go to the barn in Phoenix after every championship race and just dances while he holds himself, singing some of your songs. You're performing this weekend before the crowd at Charlotte. Give us an idea of what it's like to get out there and perform for. We're always drunk during it, or on our way to being drunk. Like, how's the crowd performing on the tracks and stuff like that at NASCAR events?
They're ready to get down, man. I mean, NASCAR is just the greatest community of people. Which I love because everybody's there for the same reason. They're there to have a good time. They brought their family out. Some of them camped out all weekend long. And they're there to have a good time. And music and people having a good time is really what they come together quite well. So I enjoy it. Plus country music and NASCAR kind of goes together well. And I've been fortunate for a lot of years to be able to be accepted by the fans of NASCAR and NASCAR in general and be able to do this. So I'm fired up about it.
This weekend is special. I know, obviously, you're good friends with Kevin Harvick. He's been featured in a couple of one of your music videos. You guys go way back. You're a big fan of his, and this is his last race there. So what is your take on that experience? Are you looking forward to that, watching that? Are you looking forward to more performing, or what is it?
I always look forward to playing music and performing for people, but really being there, like you said, I go way back with Kevin and Delana, and been able to watch him just absolutely have an incredible legendary career, and for him that night to be the last all-star race, and to see him bring back the 29 car, old school point, leading the points. I gotta say I'll probably be a little more excited to watch that race, but it'll be sweet. I'm actually looking forward to seeing where his life goes post racing, and he's an incredible dad. I've really been excited watching Keelan crush it, doing what he's doing now. And so who knows, Keelan will follow those footsteps hopefully, and we'll get another Harvick on the track soon.
It's funny that we're talking about Harvick. We've never had him on the show. We were lucky enough to host a pre-party.
Yeah, he's a pretty pretentious guy.
That's what I'd heard, right?
Yeah, he's pretty uppity,
But I've seen him in the booth. And I think there's a couple of guys we comment on every now and again who seems like they're going to do very well. They're going to do very well, post NASCAR, particularly if they just want to get up there and commentate in one booth or another. So since we've never had Happy on the show, right? We've only met him, what's he like then to even play golf with? I got the opportunity to play golf with some drivers in a couple of weeks, and I said no. I didn't want to do it because it was like three guys who I knew were going to be competitive. Three guys who weren't going to give me fucking putts. You know what I mean? Like Kyle Larson would be like, no, you got to putt that out. That's not in the letter. Like that type of shit. I don't want any of that. I think of Harvick as being kind of the opposite guy because he's on that zero fucks given tour right now as he's leaving NASCAR. What's he like personally? What's he like on a golf course? The reason I bring up the golf course thing is because I know that was your direction at first. No. You're close for people who are listening. He's very close with the foreplay guys here at Barstool. So what would Kevin Harvick be like in a golf foursome?
A really fun guy. Like he's funny. He's always up for drinking a cold beer. And he's just a good guy. Like he's one of those. I think that's the reason he's great at his craft. Is like, yeah, he seems serious, and stern when he's up there, even now in the booth. But he knows who he is and he knows what he wants to do. And he does it. You know what I mean? Like, and he's done it for a long time. As a winner, as a father, as a friend. Like he's just a good guy. What he's done outside of NASCAR with his management company and building careers of other guys completely outside the genre of NASCAR. You got everyone from, he's helped me out tremendously as a friend. And he's also helped guys like Cowboy Cerrone from the UFC, all the way to guys on the PGA Tour. So I think that's something that people don't see, that business sense side of old Happy, that I've been fortunate enough to not only see, but learn from. But he's a guy that you want in your foursome on the golf course. He's fun as hell.
Is he any good? How's his golf game?
He's not bad. I'll tell you that.
That didn't sound like it was good. Like when somebody says,
what distinct? I'll tell you. I mean, does he break 80 every time he plays? I don't know, but I'd say he's hovering around that. I mean, he's not like a 20 handicapper. He's a 10, 15 handicapper. I got you.
So if it were you and him, who would you want? What other two NASCAR drivers ideally are filling out the foursome? Is there any other guys that run races that you would love to golf with, or you've heard stories about?
I don't know, man. I don't know. You'd have to you'd have to throw something blind at us. But I'll take Kevin on my team every time. You throw a couple other guys at us, and we'll
put you up against the best.
You know who's horrible in a foursome? Ross Chastain. What do you feel about Ross Chastain this year and all the antics? We had started the show last week saying how, as podcasters, we're Ross Chastain simps. Certainly his stands. What do you think about that, and how do you think he is for NASCAR? Because he's made our job so much easier.
How does he make your job easier, if you don't mind me asking?
Like, if all of a sudden we come out of an all-star weekend that was put together in historic North Wilkesboro, where everybody who showed up had a fantastic time, but perhaps people who are watching it said, hey, the race was kind of boring. If I got the opportunity to not have to comment about a boring race and can pivot and talk about Ross Chastain punching Noah Gragson in the face after the race, then it makes my job that much easier. If he rides a wall, in Martinsville and blows up the internet and we get to comment on that, as opposed to trying to just be like, here we are on the point standing and stuff. So on like those dog days of summer and stuff, to have somebody wrecking cars and throwing punches, it's good for us.
Well, I think that's good for any sport, and I think that's why people love Harvick all these years. I think because he's the guy that's like serious, but he'll get out of the car, take his helmet off, and come at you and try to swing on you. Mm-hmm. I think that's why people liked Dennis Rodman back in the day playing basketball. You just never knew what you're gonna. You need characters in any sport, and I think that when you can do that kind of thing and be somebody that adds value to the whole league in general, so-called, or community of NASCAR, like, I think it's pretty good. Get you talking. Anytime you get people talking, man, you get them interested. And quite frankly, I could sit around and listen to people talk about stats all they want, but eventually I'm going to get bored of shit of that. Just give me something redneck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, throw some hands or something. So
throw some hands.
Yeah, throw some hands. So obviously as a performer, you perform in a lot of cool spots, right? Two of which have been the upcoming Coke 600, and you've done the Daytona 500 before. But if you could perform anywhere, not even racing related, like anywhere, what is like the white whale destination? Like, hey, I want to do a show here.
Wow. Great question. I will tell you, man, playing the Daytona 500 as a Floridian. I mean, I'm from Vero Beach, Florida. I grew up right down the road, and it was a really special moment. I'm not trying to divert this back to that, but I don't know that after playing the Daytona 500, elite, like with that amount of people, with that amount of like, just the significance of what that race is, to be able to play in the infield before it, walking the track. I got to drive the pace, like the pace car. It was just like, it was really unbelievable. My mom and dad were there, and it was like something that I remember as a kid going and watching, to then just think like, why did this happen? Like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Another significant thing about that show was every performer that plays there, previous in all years, Sam Bass, that makes the guitars and draws the logo for it. Was he had been sick and he didn't make it that year, but his wife is the one that presented me with the guitar. And so I have like one of the last guitars that Sam Bass has designed, and I have it hanging on my wall at the house. And I just always look at that and think of the significance of that and that race. And anyway, that's a long answer to your short question, but there's not a lot of places. I felt like I made it when I played in a college bar and got some beer and some money. Yeah. So to think that I could go from there to play in a place like Daytona 500, like I don't long for really anything else, because I've just always felt, hey, you tell me where I can play with my guitar and entertain people, and that'll probably be just as cool as anywhere else. But it's hard to top a place like Daytona.
That's a great answer. You're basically like a Daytona 500 champion in your own craft, if you think about it. At least that's how I'll consider you.
Look at you, Spider, just throwing that out. We have the pleasure and the opportunity, because of NASCAR, to visit a lot of tracks this year. But we always ask people, what's the one that we have to get to? Is there any track outside of Daytona, and obviously that being your home track for all intents and purposes, that you find to be more special than the others, that we have to have the experience of going to a race there?
I mean, I think, wouldn't you say Talladega is something that's a lot to me like Daytona. You can always expect some craziness in the end. And I've got a lot of buddies just like myself that are from Alabama. And so I think like my buddy Fowler, I mean, that's his, like, he can't wait for that weekend. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's probably something special. Yeah, I don't know. I would say for me, I'd have to check that off.
Yeah, when we went out 2 years ago, we went out to Sonoma too. We were so pleasantly surprised. Like, when you go to Talladega and you hit the boulevard and stuff like that, it's like a traditional, awesome NASCAR experience. Probably the most southern thing I've ever done in my life. I mean, you could say that hands down. But then you also have this like dichotomy with NASCAR. I go out and drink some, buttery Chardonnays with Spider and get drunk before we go to a road course. It really does have something for everyone.
It does.
Yeah. And then as an artist who plays at these events,
I'm just picturing you guys drinking buttery shards right now.
Yes, exactly.
You gotta join us for the next Sonoma race.
I'm telling you right now, it's probably the most gentlemanly thing I ever did. Smoking cigars, drinking Chardonnay in fucking Sonoma with Suarez's guys, right?
It was
Daniel's Army, yeah. But when you see these guys, these other artists playing, and you see the non-traditional ones come in, non-traditional for NASCAR, because we saw Cypress Hill, Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, Wiz Khalifa, all at a couple of events. Diplo at the thing, we got to see a live Diplo thing. What do you think about NASCAR now trying to like kind of spread its wings a little bit? We've also saw, gentlemen like you and Luke and all those kind of things. What do you think about NASCAR trying to branch out to artists that weren't traditionally connected to NASCAR?
That is the greatest thing that could happen. I think our world right now in general, like there's so much like diversity out there, but there tends to be a lot of walls put up and people taking sides. And it's like, hey, to me, outside the race, if we break this down, right, outside of the race that happens, like the camaraderie and the fellowship and the things that happen around a race, no matter where they put it, is what I think is super special. And when you can just take someone, whether it be myself, whether it be a Wiz Khalifa, whether we're all making different music for all different kinds of people, but if it can do something to draw people to a time. Well, first off, we don't even need to be there, and people are already going to have an awesome time, right? So it's our job to come in and make sure that we just amplify that. And I think NASCAR's done a great job at at bringing people that, like you just said, maybe wouldn't be as expected at a NASCAR race, but what they bring to that race on top of what is already great is just like icing on the cake. So I'm grateful they're having me back, but I definitely applaud NASCAR for reaching out and bringing in all genres of music.
Last thing I got for you, we're a gambling NASCAR podcast. I got to imagine your money's on Kevin Harvick this week if you're betting, man. If not, who is it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go with anyone other than Kevin Harvick.
All right.
Honestly,
That's-
I've stuck to my Kevin Harvick roots right there. I'm going to keep going with it. My
Loyal
luck's
fan.
pretty good.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know what the money line is right now on Kevin, just pick him as a winner, but I'm going to take that money line bet right
There you
now.
go. That's a ride or die guy. All right, we're going to wrap up. And again, like Wiz Khalifa and Cypress Hill are great to see at NASCAR events. But I got to be honest, if you're going to go to Coca-Cola 600 and you get to see Jake Owen, I think it's going to be a hell of a fucking time. Jake, thank you so much for giving us a couple of minutes. We hope to see you at one of these live events. And if not, we'll just see you sometime soon.
I really appreciate you guys, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you,
Take
Jake.
care, bud.
See you guys.
All right, so that was Jake Owen. Jake is a guy, right? He's a handsome guy who picks up a guitar and women go fucking crazy. And he tried to be a golfer. I think he got hurt. So then he just tried this shit, and then he became very. I hate the guy, to be quite honest with you. He's handsome as fuck too.
Another person in the NASCAR, country music, sports world that can just seemingly do whatever they want. I'm so jealous.
Yeah. It's easy to hate guys that you're jealous about, and I'm jealous of Jake Owen. But I appreciate him coming on. I hope that he comes on again. We do like a little twisted history part because I was so fixated with you guys on the 75. I don't know if anybody else was as interested in it as I was for the 75 drivers that they were picking, particularly when they were going in and doing like one a day. So they did the original 50, and then 25 years later for the 75th anniversary, they did their 75 best drivers. All I'm hearing about on Twitter and on social media in general is who they left out and who didn't deserve to be there. I don't have that historical perspective to say, did any of those guys pop out to you guys being like, oh, they shouldn't fucking be there?
No. Like, I just don't know.
Was anyone left out that like in retrospect now?
Not really, because I don't know. Like, more the modern guys, you just... I don't hate, like, not putting them on there just because you don't know. Mm-hmm. And then, like, going deep back into NASCAR, I just don't know enough to be like, how do you leave this guy off?
Spider, did you think anyone was left out?
You know, there's no one that came to mind off the top, but like Quiggs, I feel like they're, you know, I don't know enough. The one name I was hoping selfishly would be on there was my guy Clint Boyer, but that was, I don't know, that could sound like a ludicrous take to like true NASCAR historians. So
I gotta be honest, I heard a couple of people mention it. So you're certainly not the only guy to mention that. I know when we did the paint schemes thing last week, which I believe Spider won when we did the poll.
Another dub.
Yeah,
Clarence and Clear 500.
Yeah. But a lot of people had said, how could you have not picked this? How could you not pick that? Like, that's one where we only did 15. It left out so many goddamn people. By the way, people get very angry when you don't include their favorite scheme. Like, people were very angry about it.
I mean, we had 5 picks. I would have picked 100, but
we
the
could have.
reality of it is
we could have done a full hour.
Yeah, easily.
For sure.
Or maybe we do a second track. I don't know. There's so much still on the table.
No, we'll have to do more of those in some form. They're great for social.
I will tell you, though, we did the honorable mention one. And I think the honorable mention one was good because Quiggs was like, it's not necessarily the best, but just one that you have on your list. So I have an honorable mention for the 75. For the 75 greatest drivers. I don't think he should replace anybody because everyone who made it on deserved to be there and probably has a better resume. But once I started learning about this guy, Wendell Scott, do you know him?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a very, very famous type guy. He was the first black race car African-American man to win a Cup Series race. I love the story that this guy basically begs his way onto the circuit. And then he goes in 1964 and he wins a race, becoming the first African-American to win a Cup Series race. But because at the end of the race, it involves kissing a girl, right? Like when they give you a cup, you have to kiss a girl, and she was a white girl. They decided not to give it to him. They gave it to the second place guy. And it wasn't for years until after that they finally said, you know what? He actually won the race and changed the record books. Wow. And it wasn't until 31 years after he died did his family get the trophy. They didn't get the trophy until 2021. So this guy was one of those dudes who was part of his own pit crew, mechanic, driver, did everything. And, at the end of the day, there's a shitload of people who deserve to be on that list because of what they've done on the track. But I think it's worthwhile to mention Wendell Scott just because I don't think anybody on that list went through the shit that he did just to get there. You know what I mean? So if we're going to do honorable mentions every now and again, and you guys want to learn a little bit about NASCAR history, not the best part of NASCAR history, right? Like when he came on, Bill France Sr., and the France name is They Walk on Water, said that no NASCAR official would ever treat this guy with prejudice. And he was 100% wrong. Death threats, including from another driver. There was another driver named Jack Smith who pulled up alongside Scott during the pace laps and threatened to wreck him. So Wendell Scott pulled out a pistol. Pulled out a pistol and he waved it at him in the fucking car. This guy came to fucking
John
races
Morant.
fully strapped. Yeah, came in fully strapped. So, like I said, honorable mention, Wendell Scott, Twisted History of NASCAR. We're going to button up what had happened in North Wilkesboro, and the way we button shit up is we ask Spider what's the over and under performers. So the over and under with Spider.
I'm going to start with my unders, and I'm going to keep it short and brief. There's only one that I really have, and it's William Byron. Like I said, he was a guy that I thought could win the race. He was very heavily favored, I guess the second. But still, I thought he was going to be running pretty good. I don't know what. None of us really knew what to expect for this weekend, but there's one thing you could set your watch to, it's Kyle Larson and William Byron. Kyle looked like his usual self. William, not so much. So William under. The guys that I was impressed with, are all names we kind of just touched on previously. Chase Briscoe looked unbelievable, and they interviewed him pre-race, and he was still dealing with the much more intrusive hand surgery that he was describing than originally anticipated. So that considered, he did really well with the fourth place finish. The 23-11 guys we talked about, second and third. Bubba Wallace looked unbelievable. I mean, you got to show some love for Kyle Larson, who literally drove away from like a mile. Josh Berry, I was really impressed with winning the Open. Ty Gibbs, again, 9th place finish. And then I want to show some love for my guys at Legacy Motor Club. Eric Jones looked really, really good. What did he finish? He finished 8th. And I think that's his best finish all year. But Noah Gragson got his way in on the fan vote. He survived in the Open. And he didn't have that great of a finish in the actual race. But I think both those, optimistic showing from Legacy Motor Club, rather. That's my over-unders.
And we haven't given them any love yet this year, really.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that they have one of the best paint schemes with the Guns N' Roses.
And they're going to Toyota, and I think they're going to be fucking nasty next year. But
for
for
the
the time being, they looked really good this weekend.
All right, anything to add to over-under?
No, I mean, just, I guess, over Kyle Larson.
Yeah,
That's
that one needs
just
to be
so
like,
dominant.
I should have led with that inverted pyramid
And
style.
just they were saying they were trying out something new, so they kind of did. They had like a new package they were running.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not package, but like setup they were running, and just the way he can control his car. Like that's when he's got like his forward tires on the concrete. He's like the only one that can do that because there's so much risk because he's right on the wall that like other drivers can do it if they want. Half of them are gonna, if they're going around 200 times, they're gonna hit the wall at some point, and it's not gonna end up good. He can just do that over and over again and just hit those lines. So I think he's just put on the performance of a lifetime.
It doesn't count, right? So he's got 2 wins plus the All-Star win. I say this to you guys every week. Byron's got 3 wins, and I was saying what is the over-under for him for the thing. Kyle Larson has 2 wins plus the All-Star. So take that out of there, 2 wins. Do you think he gets to 5 wins this season?
Yes. Yes.
Right. Do you think
he
Byron
could win
who
every
has,
single race for the rest of the year?
Does Byron get to 5 wins this season? Over under 5.5, Byron or Larson. I'm going to ask you right now. Over under 5.5 wins this
Over
season.
Larson, under Byron.
Same.
Okay. Nah.
I have 2 questions while we're in the question segment.
Please.
On the topic of Hendrick Motorsports, Josh Berry, I mean, what a showing from him this year for Hendrick Motorsports, first of all. I should really give him his flowers during the over segment. But I'm pretty sure he was meant to make an announcement this coming week at the Coke 600 regarding a potential full-time Cup ride next year. Do you guys think it's Kevin Harvick's 4? Where do you think he's going? It seems like the inn is full, as Rick Hendrick would say, at Hendrick Motorsports with Alex Bowman's return this weekend. Is Josh Berry headed for the 4?
I mean, I think he has as good of a chance as anybody else. I think the kid deserves I think he deserves, a shot. He's done so well in Hendrick cars, which again, they're cheaters, right? There's something wrong with their cars that make
The
them go
magic
that
wand.
fast. Yeah. So, but as long as thinking through who deserves to be in that seat as much as him, I don't know. I don't know who else you argue for.
Stuart Haas, that would be a lot of fun to root for them because between, our guys that are there, Chase Briscoe, Ryan Preece, and then those guys. But my other question, have we discussed the whole Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs, both their names are Ty, they drive the 54, the 45, they're both black monster cars. This is a dyslexic kid's nightmare.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
At any point, had I brought this up?
No, I think you may have once before, and it is. It's something that I find that I notice every week since you brought it up. I mean, it is one of those things, especially since they're both, in top tens, pretty consistently.
That's just something I'm going to have to live with and get over. But I noticed it this weekend. I think they were side by side, and I was like,
yeah, which is which. That brings us into the Coca-Cola 600. The preview is brought to you by NASCAR. They're a presenting sponsor. Again, Sunday Memorial Day weekend, 5:30 on Fox, an extra 100 miles. So it starts during the daytime, and it doesn't end until after the sun goes down. Buckle up, right? You got yourself a 5-hour race here. 1.5 mile oval, 400 laps for a total of 600 miles. The 2022 winner was Denny Hamlin, right? And Truex and Denny's names are getting thrown around a lot this week. We'll talk about that in the Pickin segment. But I will tell you, in 2016, Truex led 392 of the 400 laps there. Truex owned that race in 2016. Alex Bowman is back, as we had said. Zane Smith is in a cup car for this one, and Jimmy Johnson is back. This didn't have the fanfare that we had with the original Jimmy Johnson's back for Daytona certainly. So another full week of racing. Truck Series Friday at 8 p.m. on FS1. The Xfinity is Saturday 12:30 on FS1, and then the Coca-Cola 600 is Sunday 5:30, and that's going to be on Fox. So that's a preview from NASCAR. We're going to go right into Pickin the Tires, brought to you by the Barstool Sportsbook. Who wants to go first on this bad boy?
I want Quiggs to start because I want to see if he's got a pick for this Xfinity or truck race. Ty Gibbs and Kyle Busch are currently both plus 275 for the Xfinity race on Saturday, rather.
I'm sticking just the Cup race.
Okay.
I'm going Bubba Wallace to win, plus 2,000. So 1.5 mile tracks this year. He's got 2 fourth-place finishes. He's got a lot of momentum. I mean, this week could just be Kyle Larson all over again, but I don't want to do that every week. Is just take Kyle Larson. So I think those are good odds for him. So plus 2,000. That's what I'm going with for my winner. I'm taking Ryan Blaney top 10. Minus 112. I had a feeling about taking him to win, and then I just didn't think that was necessarily there, so I'm going top 10 with that. Like I was saying earlier, I feel like Chastain kind of got the collar on a little bit, don't do too much, so Chase Elliott over Ross Chastain's minus 114. I think there's 2 options. It's you kind of get the Ross that doesn't have the edge to him, or if he does have the edge, I don't know if he's surviving 400 laps on that track. So Chase Elliott over him. And then to get a bunch of drivers, I have Ford to win plus 425. So you're getting Harvick, Keselowski, Blaney, Logano, all guys that can win. Keselowski's won there before. Logano's won there before. And I just think having a manufacturer with
I like
decent guys for plus 425 is great. So those are my picks.
That is really good odds on Ford.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go next.
Yep.
And I'm going to keep it pretty brief this week. And I'm just going to give you the picks without any really logic because
Before you do that, this isn't part of your picks. You said you weren't looking. You were asking Quiggs about the Xfinity. Is there something you think about that? Because I think it's real interesting that plus 275 is short fucking odds. Kyle Busch and Ty Gibbs are both plus 275.
It's a 2-horse race.
I mean, you don't think you like Josh Berry at plus 1,000 there?
If I were going to take a driver not named Kyle Busch or Ty Gibbs, I would take Justin Allgaier plus 500.
And I'd probably take John Hunter at plus 500. I don't think I'd touch those 2 guys at plus 275. That's nothing in a race like this.
It's weird.
And there's 2 guys at it.
Yeah, when there's 2 guys like that now.
Yeah. Or maybe Josh. I don't know. I'm sorry, Spider.
You're good. That is the reason why I'm not touching that race.
Right.
Or, well, maybe it's the reason I'm down like 20 units. But I digress.
25.
Thank you, Quiggs. I'm going with Truex and Ross Chastain. I know Quiggs said Ross Chastain is collared, but he still needs to win, and I think he's looked really good on these tracks. And he's going to have the car and an opportunity this week. I think if he can keep his composure and stay out of the shit, which is a lot to ask for Ross, he'll be in a good position. But as I always say, or as I said like the other week, Ross has this giant target on his back so consistently, and he seemingly still gets unbelievable results. So the one thing left to do for Ross is win this year, and I think this is a really, really, really good spot for him to do it. If not Ross, Martin. 10-1 on Ross, 9-1 on Truex. I think the Gibbs car is probably a pretty good bet here, and Truex would be.
Truex is great on this track.
Yeah.
He's good at, if he gets the lead, he's very good at holding
Right.
it, which there's a lot of holding the lead in this.
Also, Denny I like. I love Denny, but plus 700 I don't think. I'd rather just take Truex plus 900 for those reasons. Large, what do you got?
I like Reddick this weekend. I like Tyler Reddick. And at plus 1800, I also see the Bubba Wallace bet that you're making. So I think I'm going to take 2311 instead. I'm going to grab both those guys because it's plus 900. Like I said, I'll take it if it's like plus 1,000. Plus 900 is close enough to me. So race winner, I'm taking 2311 for plus 900. I kind of see these matchups. So first of all, I'm not picking winners anymore necessarily, but I have a top 5 and a top 10. I'm going to pick one of them here. Brad Keselowski top 5 is plus 500, and Chris Buescher top 10 is plus 250. I wish Buescher paid a little bit more for a top 10, so I think I'm going to go Brad K top 5. So 2311, Brad K top 5 at plus 500. I don't mind that.
No, I like
plus
that
500 for Brad K.
I think that's a great pick.
Yeah, and then I have a couple others. I just have to whittle them away. Like you'd said that you like Denny Hamlin. So do I. I'm going to take Denny over Kyle because it's plus money, plus 103. It should be more, right? The way that Kyle Larson is. But I could see this being one of those disappointing races where Kyle Larson doesn't finish. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone's so goddamn high on him. So I'm going to take Denny Hamlin over Kyle Larson in a head-to-head at plus 103. And I also told you that I like Joey. And so I have 2 bets for Joey. I got to pick which one. I have him winning best finish in Group D, and I have him as the top Ford. And I don't know which one I like better. I guess I'm going to go Group D. Group D is Ty Gibbs, Daniel Suarez, Keselowski, who I said I like as a top 5, and Joey Logano. I'm going to get almost 2-1, plus 180 on Joey Logano, best finish in Group D. So that's it. So I have Joey on my ticket. I have 2311, and I have Brad K on my ticket. All right, so that's it for us. Everyone is going out to the race, especially Quiggs. I hope you guys don't get the rain. It's looking like 90% rain on 70% on Saturday, 90% on Sunday.
Oh, shit, I have not checked the
That's
forecast.
brutal.
No, but the only thing is the rain's in the morning. And,
Okay.
this doesn't start – it's a full spate of racing. Like, you could start in Monaco, go to Indy, and wind up in Charlotte
Fire.
if you just want to sit down and watch racing on Memorial Day weekend. So the fact that it's starting later, I think, bodes well for you. So I hope that everything goes off without a hitch, including you guys traveling back and forth safe. This is Rubbin' His Race, and we'll see you guys next week.
Happy Memorial Day.
Boom.